and welcome to For the Birds with Richard Cole. And Richard, this is an exciting show for us. Now we have a new intro for our show.
It's almost like we're real.
That's right, we are real. And Richard Cole is a birding expert here to answer your birding questions. Be sure to comment about, maybe just put the place where you're watching. If you have any comments on this, just go ahead and tell us what you think or ask Richard a question. He is your resident birding expert, and he founded Cole's out of his love for the birds. So you got an exciting show coming up.
Absolutely. And it's jam-packed, and it's almost like we almost have to rush on this one because there's so much to talk about.
That's right. So we're first going to, again, a reminder just to ask your questions anytime during the broadcast. You might see me looking down from time to time to monitor the comments and that sort of thing, and then share it out with a friend if you want to help them as well. But let's talk about, so we're going to talk about the backyard birding. We're going to have tips about how to photograph birds. We've got our photography contest coming up for the Cole's calendar. And last but not least, some great birding gifts for Valentine's Day. So let's start with the bird count.
All in one show.
I know, we're jam-packed today.
Yeah. The great backyard bird count has been going on for 20-something years, and it's a great time to get your kids involved and go out and just count some birds for a very, I should say worthy cause, but this data is used because it's over the years it shows trends. And there's professionals doing the counting, there's biologists doing countings, and people in the various aspects of birds, and then all of the public play a major part of this. So all across the country, people go out and participate in the backyard bird count. And it's very simple. You can go to, and I'll look down here, in fact, it's GBBC, Great Backyard Bird Count. You can also contact it at birdcount.org and get all the information of how to get a form to fill out and exactly what the rules are. Give it a try. Especially if you have children, get them involved with that, and it's fun for you too. The wife and I do this every year. It takes a little bit of time, and it's just fun. You sit on the back porch and just count the birds. It's that simple. But give it a shot. It'll help some people. It'll give you some data, and over the years, it's very valuable information. In fact, you can go look at the sites and see what the information is shown over the years. Check it out.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, right? You just go out and look in your backyard, right?
It's for the biggest part of it by novices. You don't have to be a professional to do this. It's very simple, very easy, and the data is very valuable to the scientists who will use it.
Right, and I know you've been doing it for years.
For years, yes.
So now let's talk about the Cole's calendar. It seems like it just came out, right? But it's already time to start taking your pictures for that. And we really need winter pictures. So let's talk about
we do. One
the
of the
Cole's
problems
calendar.
we run into at Cole's is we ask for contributions of the pictures. You send them in, and they're fantastic pictures. We love this calendar. Right. Everybody else loves it too. But a lot of the people start thinking about this as it gets close to calendar time. Late summer, midsummer, late summer, early fall. And guess what? We don't have a lot of winter bird pictures. So we're asking you to think about the Cole's calendar and submitting pictures early in the year, or at least taking them early in the year. So get out there when it's cold and when it's wintertime, and you may see different birds, and certainly you see different foliage on the trees. But send us some winter bird pictures. Some of those will be in the calendars, especially in January, February, maybe March pictures. We need those types of pictures. So give us a hand and think about the Cole's calendar early and take those pictures outside soon.
Yeah, so you want to start taking those pictures. Now we've got some tips to help you take better pictures. Richard's great at this. Oh, yeah.
It's, if you've got a high-end Nikon or Canon, and you've got a blind, and you've got all the professional gear and the fancy flash and the tripods and remotes, this is not for you. That's not what I'm talking about. This is for you're at home, you've got some feeders out on the back porch or in the side yard, and you've got your cell phone, and you want to take a decent picture. There are some rules. Over the years, I've looked at a lot of pictures, and there's a couple of things that are problems that I see far too often that can be eliminated. One of them is the bird is just too small in the picture. I see, it just so happens there's a great example right there. Beautiful picture, great feeder, good background. I think there's a red type bird on the right-hand side of that feeder. Oh, we'll just zoom in on it. you can't and still have a
Right.
quality picture, because with your cell phone, most likely you're using digital zoom. You're not zooming, you're just taking a smaller and smaller bite of that file. So then you take that little bitty one and try to bring it up to calendar size or a large print size. You don't have enough pixels to give you a sharp image, and so you get a fuzzy picture you can't use. So the number one problem we run into is the bird or the subject of the picture is just too small in the overall picture. And for composition, not that we're too concerned about real composition, but you like to see at least 25% of the overall picture taken up by the subject, the feeder and the bird, or just the bird. If it's much less than 25%, you've got, unless there's a really beautiful background, I mean, that's not a bad picture, but you can't see what you want to see. So that's one thing. Try to get closer, and we'll go into some of the ways to combat these problems. But that's number one. The bird's too small in the picture. Number two, the lighting's wrong. And we just go snap these pictures, and something's wrong. Here's a shot just, out the back door. What's the problem? Gee, there's a kitchen light shining right into the glass on our side of it, and it ruins the picture. And sometimes that glares right across everything. This one you have a little bit of salvage, but the picture's a little washed out because of it. So you got lighting problems two ways. One, if you're shooting from inside, which you probably will be, and there's lights in the room you're in, you're going to get a glare on the glass, and you can't overcome that. The other thing is lighting outside. Here's one where it's actually taken through a window, so you don't have glare on the inside because the room's dark, but the problem is you've got lighting behind the subject. So you get this interesting picture, but you can't see what the bird, you can't see the details of the bird because the lighting is behind it and washes it out. That happens a lot. So there's two ways you have to be careful about the lighting. One, if it's in the room you're in, you want to dim all those lights. And if you're shooting outside and there's light behind the subject, you're probably going to have a washed out bird like that. Then there's another group of problems that I'll just throw in as really the watch for your background. I make this mistake all the time. I take a picture of a bird, say, it's great. Then I fail to look at what's behind the bird or to the side of the bird. And it's really a stupid looking picture with a cute bird and a terrible background. Maybe there's trash on the ground next to the bird, or maybe the background is somebody's garage door. And that's not what you need. You just think about what's in the background. And if you think ahead when you're staging pictures or getting ready to, just think, well, if every time I take a picture out this window, I'm going to see that thing over there. So be sure to aim differently or move that thing over there. Plan ahead. So that's the background's ugly. We can address that. The lighting is wrong. We can address that. And the bird's too small. We can address that. Like I said, this is not for the professionals. This is for grab your cell phone, take the shot, and there's some great pictures in our calendars taken just like that, and you can do it too. So, lighting. Just be aware that if you're in your house and the bird's outside, turn out the lights in the room you're in, and that should reduce the glare on your windows on your side. Get close to the glass. If you have to, you can even put a towel above you, drape it over your head to block the light from behind you, hitting the glass where you're taking the picture. You'll get a much clearer picture out through there. Don't have to be fancy, not a big fancy blind or anything equipment you have to buy, just a sheet or something that blocks the light from behind you hitting the glass. Then just be aware of what's behind the bird. If there's bright sunlight, maybe you wait to a different part of the day where the sun's not too bright on the objects behind your bird that you're taking a picture of, and you'll get a much clearer picture. So that's addressable. And maybe shoot your pictures out of a different window. Maybe move a feeder to get pictures if you want them. Then there's how small the bird is. You can, one, get close. Two, zoom in the picture, but there's a problem with that. There's your two best ways to do it. Get close, it's easy. If you want to be still, sit down, put a blanket around you in a chair not too far from the feeders, And once you're still for a while, the birds will ignore you and come right up to the feeder, and you can get within 10 or 15 feet of the feeder and still have birds on it. If that's not the case, then you have to zoom. But your phone doesn't really have a real zoom. It is a digital zoom, and it just takes a smaller and smaller piece of that digital picture. And then it looks very pixelated when you bring it up to calendar size, just like what you're seeing right there. That was the same picture we showed. It was too far off in the distance, and you bring it up and try to make it look nice, you can't use it.
Right.
So you have to get closer to your subject or bring your subject closer to you. Or you can zoom a little bit on digital if you've got a good camera, that's fine. But just be aware that the really small birds in a big picture aren't very useful. So just make the adjustments that you can make to overcome that.
Yeah, and keep the feeders clean so that the background looks nice and that sort of thing. And so those are great tips.
The feeder clean thing is a mistake I have made far too often.
Me
you
too.
would think you would learn, but I take the picture. It's a great picture, great birds, dirty feeder.
Yeah.
Not that I ever have dirty feeders, but it has happened.
Yeah, that happens to the
this
best
happens sometimes when you do things right.
Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful.
It just happens. I mean, every picture is not that nice, but it's got interest. It's got a variety of birds. The lighting's nice. The background's okay. And it's big enough, the resolution's high enough to make it so you can expand it to calendar size and have a nice shot.
Were you zoomed in on that, or were you really close?
Zoomed a little bit and fairly close, probably 8 feet away, 9 feet, being real still, just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I put the little camera on a tripod so it didn't shake.
Yeah.
And then I could just push the button when the bird was there. I didn't have to make any movements and scare it off. But I could sit right there and watch them. So.
That is wonderful. Now we want to talk a little bit about what a mild winter this has been.
Yeah.
And it's not been mild just here in Georgia where Coles is located, but it has been mild all across the country. How is that going to affect, bird nesting, migration, those kind of things?
Well, you think about that. Oh, my goodness, it's so warm so early in most of the places now. That's got to affect it. They're going to. So what do the birds go by? They don't have calendars. They don't have watches.
Thermometers.
Thermometers. They don't have all this, and yet, if you're tracking your birds, I used to keep a really good log about how many birds I saw each day at my feeders in general, when they started nesting, etc. And after about 5 years, I just quit doing it. Why? It didn't change. Really, you could see some weather changes, but the shift in when my birds were nesting or started nesting really didn't, a week and a half, 2 weeks max, the whole spread. I was reading earlier today about a study that they were doing. Someone did over a 45-year period of time, tracking with the temperature slowly been rising over that period of time, how much earlier was the birds starting to nest in this study. And it amounted to an average of 4.5 days over 45 years. So it's like geological time. Things move slowly.
Wow.
In any one year, you may see a shift of a week or two. But on average, it's a very slow change over time. But just if it's a little warmer now, it's probably not making much difference at all. And if you track it every year and make the notes of when things happen, like when you first start hearing the birds sing, the titmouse or whichever bird is your favorite or you hear the most in the yard, when do they start singing? Mark that. Right now, I have 2 or 3 species singing in the backyard. That's not terribly abnormal for this period of time. We're well down into February. These guys are starting to set up territories, so they're supposed to start singing. They're not nesting yet, but they're getting ready. The males are getting excited. It's almost that time, so they're setting up territories. And this pretty much stays on a fixed schedule.
Yeah.
So over a long period of time, it would change more.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about Valentine's Day gifts. We've got, Valentine's Day's next week, right?
Guys, do not forget this.
Right, and
it's coming. Pay attention.
Birding gifts are great for that.
They are.
We love how birds are such, we think of birds as so romantic and mating for life and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's kind of inspiring and romantic.
And I'm kind of surprised, although it made sense to me, is how many people get new feeders and a nice seed selection for someone for a Valentine's gift. Like,
Yeah, well, it makes a great
that's
one.
pretty darn smart.
Yeah.
And you eat candy and it's gone. The bird feeder's out there. It's so nice to have a brand new bird feeder anyhow.
And it's a great gift to give somebody to introduce them
Yes.
to something that could become a lifelong love. And it's a romantic thing to do together, is to sit and watch the
Aw.
birds too.
It is. Let's see. And we can show something.
Yeah, of course. This is
Just
a
so happens
great feeder.
We have a nice feeder here.
A Bountiful bird feeder.
A Bountiful bowl from Kohl's. This is
Bountiful bowl. Sorry.
Bountiful bowl from Kohl's. And it's just a hanging feeder with a nice dome and a little tray. And this is one of my favorite feeders. And I'm having great reviews in my backyard from it. I've used these type of feeder for years, but this one's nice. And you get something to go along with it. Oh, by the way, and that'll have a really nice package with it when you buy one.
Yeah.
But here's two things, two of the Kohl's products. Here's some suet kibbles. I'll turn around so you can see. They're two different flavors and two different colors. They look attractive. Birds love these things.
Don't bluebirds really love these?
They do. And a lot of the birds who don't eat a lot of seed, like the bluebirds and some of the warblers, they just absolutely love these things. And they'll eat a lot of them. And they can because they're soft and they got a lot of energy. The other thing is mealworms, dried mealworms. Tasty little morsels, especially if you're a bird, you'll think they're tasty little morsels. But these are easy to use, and you just open these up, and these two together, mixed together, one of my favorite ways to do it. You don't have to mix them, but it just seems like fun. I put those in the bowl, and this becomes one of the bird's favorite feeders on my back porch.
Right.
And
Let's take a look at some
constantly in
video
and out
that
of
we
this.
have of
Yeah.
those. We have some great video to show you how much the birds like these. And what I like is that you get a great view of the birds.
Yes, and they share it. It's big enough for a couple of birds to get in there and hang around it. They're coming and going. You can put this right outside your window and watch it. And then you can take pictures of it if you remember how.
Yeah, look
But
at that.
This
I
is just
love
fun.
it.
And I fill mine up about 3 times a day. I don't put a
Really?
huge amount in there. I cover the bottom nicely, and then I'll add some more later during the day. But this is two of the products that work really well. You can put sun meats in there. You can put regular bird seed in there. You can put peanuts in there. I have to admit, I do add peanuts into my mix, just whole peanuts, especially for the titmice and the occasional blue jay that comes by. But nice gift. The feeder with its packaging, as you purchase it, looks really good. And you add 2 of these products with it, or just a bag of regular Kohl's bird feed, and it makes just such a nice gift. Drop it in a basket, put a bow in it, and say Happy Valentine's.
Yeah, and that was some food, and you can tell it attracts a wide variety of birds.
Yeah.
And what else? You can see the birds really well on the feeder. There's no obstructing the view. And you've got this great little dome so that they are protected and your feed is protected from like snow and rain and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And this is not a feeder that you put out to get you through the week or anything like that. This is that little thing that you put the treats in, that you have up close to the window so you can see them. You're sitting in there and having lunch, and they're right outside your window. They're having a little lunch also.
Which makes it even better to me, a Valentine's Day gift. Because what a
Yes.
romantic, fun thing to do is to sit and watch the birds at their feeder. And, of course, it's fun to me to watch their courtships.
Yes.
You know, you'll see the male feeding the female and that kind of thing, and then them working together to feed the babies and all that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
a really fun feeder. What a great gift.
Yeah, it's, talking about the courtship, be on the lookout for some of those moves now. My wife Nancy mentioned this. Yeah, hey, the male cardinal starts feeding the female this time of year as part of the courtship. He'll bring her some food, she accepts it. And that's kind of that's pretty cool to watch. And there's other things. The house finches will do some bowing and some wing waving. That's and you'll see that a little bit with the young later begging for food, but the male will put on a little show and the female wags her wings. Several of the finches do that behavior, and you'll see it in all these birds that are coming to the feeder. You'll start to see the couples coming, the 2 chickadees showing up, the 2 titmice showing up. It's fun, and that's a good feeder to do that with because you can put it up close and put treats in it, and everybody will show up and enjoy it, just like Mr. Cardinal there.
Yeah, he is beautiful, isn't he? Such a bright red. And so that brings me to, and you may or may not know this, but do cardinals really mate for life? Is that or do you know?
They try.
Yeah.
They try. All these birds, we hear that certain birds, they mate for life. And some of these stay together with their pair pretty well. Of course, with birds, some of them don't have a long lifespan.
Right.
So one of them may live 4 or 5 years, one of them may only live 2. So you get changes because of that. A lot of things go on. So you can't say they mate for life, but some of them will stay together a long period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and it's occasionally the female, right, who switches mates?
Yeah. Yeah. She's looking around. She wants the best for her brood, and she's trying to select the best male. That's what part of this whole thing's all about. The male's trying to say, look who's here. I'm important. I'm good looking. You want to be in my territory. So he's singing and he's doing all the bluster. And he said, I'm going to protect you. If you have a nest here, I'm going to take care of you and keep all the other birds away, and I'll find you food for you. And the female just says, yeah, I don't like the way he looks. I don't think he's that good of a guy. I'm looking elsewhere. So that's part of all this courtship. They look around and try to select the best for them.
Right.
And for the propagation of their species. It's just automatic. That's what they do.
So, and I've seen geese. I love the way when you watch like wild geese that the male is so protective of his family.
Yeah.
And they I don't know if it's mate for life, but they're definitely very, loyal, it seems.
They seem to be. And you do not want to get in the way of a goose protecting its young or its nest. Trust me.
I know. Yeah, they're pretty tough. Even though you look at them and you think like they don't have anything that can really hurt you, when they come running after you, they are scary.
It will catch your attention. When they're flapping their wings, they're making a noise, and they're charging you. Yeah, I move out of the way.
Yeah, I've never seen if they can really do any damage, but they do scare you.
Yes, they do. And all these birds do that to some extent to protect their territory. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going on starting about now. And that's also, you'll see a little drop of action at your feeders because not as many birds can come into that feeder because the other birds of their species are keeping them at bay as best they can. So you'll see a drop in the number of chickadees and titmice and that type of bird, normal cardinals, because the males are chasing the other males and females away from their territory. So and holding a guard around your feeder area. You'll see them slip in, but it should drop a little bit, and because they've got other things to do. They got to raise young, they got to find food for that, they got to protect their territory, so they have to spread out a little bit more.
So when can we look forward to seeing the hummingbirds coming back?
Well, if you have your feeder out right now, like we recommend during the winter, no matter where you're at, there's a possibility you could have a hummingbird now or anytime soon. There's several in our area right now that we are aware of because these guys don't always go down to Central America. They have a tendency to go in different directions sometimes, but they'll repeat that. Is that a mistake? Well, maybe, but if it works for them, they keep doing it. So in the southeast, we have a lot of hummingbirds show up in the wintertime that are from the west, and we find them around. There's not millions of them, but there's a lot of them, and we find them every year. So keep a hummingbird feeder out. Now, other than that, your hummingbirds coming back up from Central America will start arriving in really very late February in the very southern parts and gets more and more numbers building in as we get further into the season. So in, say, the Atlanta area across that line in North Texas, you should see by late March, mid-April, a good number of birds moving through the area headed north, or maybe reaching your area to set up their territory. And by the end of April, early May, further up north, mid-May, they should be pretty much where they're going, and you should see less birds for a while as they, here again, stake out a territory, keep the other birds away, and start raising their young. And then you're going to say, where's my hummingbirds? Because we had a lot last year, but it's going to be after the breeding season before that happens. when the southern migration starts, and you'll got to see not only the couple of birds that are around your area, if you have any, but you'll see all the birds that are up north and all of their offspring. The population is now much bigger, and they all start moving south. So you'll see that in late summer, and depending on where you are. And sometimes I tell people, don't worry about it to mid-July in, say, the Atlanta area. You'll start seeing a few birds, but late July, August is a big month for hummingbirds in the south, as the northern birds are starting to, in numbers, reach down through here. So take a deep breath, enjoy the one or two you may have during the breeding season, enjoy the ones moving in, you'll see those, and if you're lucky enough to be in a good breeding area, you'll see a bunch during the breeding season. But if you don't, be patient. When late summer comes, you'll see your share of the birds moving back again.
Yeah, and if you don't have a hummingbird feeder, or if your sweetheart doesn't have a hummingbird feeder, I think Valentine's is also maybe a nice time to get them started in the whole hummingbird thing, because that's really fun too.
And that brings up a Cole's hummingbird feeder.
Exactly.
Yes, the Hummer
That's a
High
great
Rise,
way.
which is designed to give you a better view of the birds, and it's very versatile, and it doesn't drip or leak. So look for the Hummer High Rise feeder, and put that out. You can put it out during the winter. It's not going to break in the wintertime, and then it's ready to go in the springtime when you're likely to see some hummingbirds coming into the territory.
Right. And then other gifts that you might think about for Valentine's Day, if your sweetheart already is feeding birds and has plenty of feeders, then you might just think about Cole's products, just maybe a little gift basket full of different types of food so that they can start to attract different types of birds and that sort of thing. Just like the bluebirds, what you have here, right here is the perfect thing, I think, for bluebirds.
It's
if you
a
want to
good way
start
to
to
get
attract
started
them.
for sure. And the birds will love it, and you'll see a lot of action, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. So we've got, just to summarize really quickly, and you can ask your birding questions, Richard Cole is here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern time to answer your birding questions, knows everything about birds, but don't forget about the great backyard bird count, right? That's coming up February 14th through the 17th.
Yes. Easy to do, a lot of fun, and it counts.
Yeah. And
Literally.
start taking your pictures for the Cole's calendar and take those winter pictures now. There are fewer winter entries than any other season. So it's really tough to get those winter pictures that we love so much. And the birds in the snow look great. So be thinking about how you can take those winter photos right now. And then the other thing is just look forward to seeing all those nesting birds that are coming out. Any other final thoughts, Richard?
No, this is a fun time. You're going into springtime. It's getting exciting. Like I said, you're going to see the courtship. You're going to see the nesting. You're going to have birds nesting in your yard. You're going to see babies all of a sudden. It's just a fun time of year, and it's a great time of year for the birds. And just remember, when we talk about the environment and things, we think about habitat destruction in South America and stuff. Well, this is actually their home, where they raise their young around us. So do the best you can around your area to provide them good habitat. And hopefully somebody down south will take care of them in their summering grounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's so important. And I've already seen some Cedar Waxwings out because the berries, the berries are out already. Have you seen the Cedar Waxwings are out?
I have not seen Cedar Waxwings this year. I have a row of hollies. One of the reasons I planted a row of hollies is because you can count on the Cedar Waxwings in this area every,
They're
time it gets cool.
beautiful.
And I just haven't seen them yet. I suspect they've been by, I just missed them.
Yeah, I think you were
I'll see
probably
'em.
out busy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy birding until we see you next time.